Hi everyone, this is Nick here from Quickie. I'm joined today with Pete from Birallee Brewing. Hi Pete, how's it going?
Good, mate. How you going, Nico?
Excellent, excellent. Happy end of the week. Hopefully you have a
Yeah,
nice cold one with
100%.
you.
Mate, Friday night, here we go.
Friday night, yeah, that's right. Cheers to you. Welcome to the series where we review reviewers. Essentially, we talk to reviewers where we provided some products to you guys. And we talk about your feedback after a few use of the product because it's important to have a little bit more than just, hey, here's the product, talk about it, sort of promote it. It's important to see how you feel about it after using it a bunch of times. So let's get started. Pete, tell us about Brly Brewing because personally, sorry, I really love what you do. It's a different format. It's not on YouTube. It's not a video. So thank you for showing your face tonight. But I love that you can sit there and have something to read, right? So some of us might be in bed or doing other thing, and then you're just reading this, and it's like, okay, that's relaxing. You're reading, and then off you go. So tell us about Birallee.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I started homebrewing, I think back in 2017. I started out how most people did, got gifted one of those Cooper's homebrew fermenter kits from the wife and that sort of thing, and started off, doing extract kits and that sort of thing. And like a lot of people, man, you kind of get bit by the bug, and I just kept on searching on ways to make it better, because ultimately what my goal was to be able to make a beer at home that was as good as something I could buy down the road at the pub. And so you quickly moved on from extract to partial mashes with grain and that sort of thing, and eventually moved to all grain. And as part of that, I found myself always wanting to document, whether it's just like recipes or what I did to make a particular batch and that sort of thing. And so I kind of started just writing it down in a blog, basically for myself.
Yeah.
And the more and more I did it, started researching more and more things, and just kind of kept adding to it and that sort of thing. And it's just kind of grown, into what it is now. And you touched on it before. It's a written format sort of blog. It was a conscious decision not to get into the whole YouTube video side of things, for several reasons. But I certainly think there's still a really valid place for the written blog media as a bit of an alternative to all the BrewTube videos and that sort of thing. So so it's really gone from there. And so there's a lot of stuff. There's things like recipes. I document all my brew days on there. I do sort of critical analysis of the beers that I've made, and review a whole bunch of equipment, basically anything I can get my hands on, man. Like, I love trying new and different, all the latest bits of gear and that sort of thing. And I've dealt with equipment from you guys as well as some other companies, like Spike Brewing's another one that I've kind of worked with a little bit as well. And yes, that's basically what it is in a nutshell.
And as I said, I think it's really good to have a different format because obviously there's just so many videos you can watch, and being able to have an article where you read and you take the time to I guess take in what's written and how it's done. But also I really appreciate, and it's not sucking up to you because there's nothing in it for us, but it's more I really like the way you say things and how you write things. I really want people to have a good look at your blog, whether it's about our products, different products, it doesn't matter. It's just the quality is there. In some ways, it reminds me of Philosophy, where they do a bit more videos, but that access where you just actually put your thoughts on paper, and it's really
exactly
nice.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that personally.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. And yeah, there's quite a bit of time and effort goes into what I write and that sort of thing, and just making sure that it's kind of logical and makes sense. And when you're doing reviews and that sort of thing, you want to make sure that you're kind of fair and balanced and that sort of thing, and really sort of giving people the full picture of what it is that you're talking about. Yeah.
And you take some really good photos as well. It's not just a wall of text. There's a bunch of
100%.
Good photos, and you see the stuff you're talking about.
And I think that's important too, because there's nothing worse, man, than reading like an article and it's just like a wall of text. Like that's the quickest way to lose someone's interest. So yeah, I'm very conscious of that, and I always try. It's not always the easiest thing to do when you're halfway through a brew day and you've got to remember to stop and take photos of everything. But yeah, certainly, there's a lot of effort goes into taking all those photos and that sort of thing, and just sort of, editing them a little bit to make them a bit nicer. And it certainly helps break up all the text, and I hope makes it a little bit more engaging for people that are reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. So I think we reached out to you not too long ago. I don't remember exactly if it was me or someone else, but we reached out to you and we said, hey, your blog is great. How about you review one of our products? And I believe we provided an Apollo Snub Nose 30 liter.
Hmm.
and a couple of bits and pieces. I can't remember exactly what.
Yeah.
What did you get exactly?
Yeah, so there was the Apollo snub nose fermenter. That's the pet
Yeah,
based one as well. And you guys also helped me out with that was around the same time that you guys released the Apollo Titan, basically the stainless steel alternative to that.
yeah,
So I've been using both of those since I've got them for basically every single brew. I'm either using one or the other. I started out using the Apollo quite a bit more because when I was building, the house where I am now, I did brew days at my dad's place. So I'd actually sort of do the brew day there, and then I'd cart the fermenter full of wort back home
right.
in the car. And I found the Pet Apollo a little bit better for that because it has the round base, so that would sit on the seat of the car as opposed to the three legs of the Titan.
Yeah,
Might have been a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
less sort of stable in a car, but since I've been here, I've been using the stainless one basically for every brew, just because I think stainless is just a little bit easier to clean and that sort of thing with hot water and that sort of stuff. And you can, with the extra tri-clamp ports, you can put some other little attachments and stuff on. But
Yeah.
man, I've made some excellent beers with both of those things, and I've certainly got some pretty in-depth reviews of
Oh,
those
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
website as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Titan one is really, really good. It covers a lot of things. Probably clears up a bunch of preconceived ideas people might have about the product. Just to give us a bit of perspective, roughly how many brews do you think you've done in each unit? Do you have any idea? Or
Yeah, I was looking at this before. It'd have to be close to a dozen in each one, I reckon.
that's good.
Yeah, quite a few. And so there's the brews that I've done from scratch. I've done quite a few of those. The fresh wort kits from All In Brewing Co.
Yeah,
as well. Just you know what it's like, young family and that sort of thing. Sometimes you're a bit
yeah,
time poor, so just chuck a 15 liter fresh wort kit and a few liters of spring water into a fermenter, pitch
yeah.
a pack of yeast, and
Off you
you're off
go.
to the races. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, we were discussing last week, or was it this week? I don't remember exactly, but I started making cubes for myself at home. So then I spent a whole day just doing a bunch of cubes,
Hmm.
and it's essentially that, right?
Man, 100%. And that would be like you were telling me about that. That's a massive day, man. I started
Yeah,
nighttime brewing,
yeah,
for a similar reason. Just that's when I can sort of get a few hours to myself, and I end up starting at about 8 o'clock and finishing at about midnight or so. And it's good fun. You just kind of squeeze it in when you can, and I enjoy it. It's kind of
yeah.
relaxing and cathartic in a way.
It's funny. A lot of people will say that. I guess a lot of dads. It might be a bit, I guess, sexist, but most of us brewing are dads, I suppose. But I'm sure that there's a lot of moms as well. But it's really nice to have that time off where you're just, doing your own
Absolutely,
thing. You're in your own head. You're brewing, and you're having a good time, right?
absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
it's a mental health break. But let's going back to the product. So obviously you've done a dozen in each, which is really impressive. I do brew a lot. I don't know how many brews I've done personally, quite a few. So what do you think about the plastic Apollo? In terms of positive, negatives, let's hear some feedback and see
Sure, yeah.
what you have to say.
Yeah, so I think the plastic one is great, and the probably the biggest benefit of that is the cone shape bottom, right? Because especially at the end of your brew, when if you do a cold crash and that sort of thing, all the sediment kind of drops down and compacts, a little bit more nicely, and you can sort of you can get to more of the fresh beer. On top of, I think you get a little bit less wastage from the trub that settles into the bottom.
Yeah,
So that's certainly one of the big benefits of that particular shape fermenter. Um, in terms of feedback, I think what I'd like to see on the Apollo, and it's the same with the Titan as well, is I think a redesigned lid, because the port for where the PRV screws in, doubles as a dry hop port, but in my experience, it's just not really big enough to be feeding hops through, and to dry hop, it's easier just to pull the whole lid off.
yeah,
So I think a redesigned lid where you could have like a 1.5 inch, ferrule or tri-clamp opening, where you could put something like a sight glass and a butterfly valve for, oxygen-free dry hopping and that sort of thing. I think that'd be like a really, really big hit.
yeah,
But what I do really like about them, talking about the lid, is because the lid is only the smaller sort of size. It's not the full diameter of the fermenter like you see with some of the other stainless pressure fermenters. And what I found is that it's a more reliable seal, like very or
yeah.
never really had any leaks coming from around the lid. You can
Mm,
imagine like a lid, the size of a small plate, it's much easier to seal than,
That's right.
one
Yeah.
that's the size of an entire fermenter where you've got, sometimes gaskets that can be a little bit funky and you've got those massive clamps you got to do up. And man, that's why I find myself always going back or always going to the Titan, because I know it's just going to work. It's going to seal every single time. A little bit of lube around the O-ring and, and away you go.
Yeah, it's very solid for that. Just bouncing back on what you just said, the lead is good. So the point of the PET for the Apollo is to be designed at a specific price point, which means everything has to be in as much PET
Of course,
and
yeah.
mostly plastic, right? So that's why we have this lid. Hindsight is always 2020, so you would always, change things. But we worked on a different lead. I'm pretty sure we're going to be releasing that probably around May, June 2024.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think even if it was made available as like an optional upgrade,
well, that's what
I'd pay extra for one. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
sign me up, mate. Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. And it's going to be full stainless because the feedback, and I talk to customers all day, and it is that, well, the plastic is good and it's cheap and, it's replaceable, whatever. But a lot of people like us who use that at least once a month, if not more, then you want to be able to give it a good use, unscrew things and rescrew them and whatever, and it's not going to break or have minor defaults.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what happens with plastic, right? So it's going to be full stainless. It's going to have it's going to have a price tag that goes with it, but that lid is I've been using the last sample for 2 months now or something like that. It is amazing. Okay. It is amazing. It's got 2-inch tripod at the top.
Yeah, right. And it's got the fittings for obviously your ball locks, your ball lock post for gas and liquid. Wow. Okay. And that sounds exciting.
The best part is it also has the thermal well built in.
Yeah, right. Because that was one of the things I was thinking is that, the thermo well would have to go. But what I find is obviously with the Apollo, that's, you kind of need to have that unless you want to sort of stick your temperature probe to the outside of the fermenter. But with the Titan, I find I've got a little temperature probe 1.5-inch tri-clamp that I just put through one of the ports, and that's what I use for measuring the temperature. So that's
so it's going to be a good lead. It's going to be a solid lead. It will do whatever people want to do with it. I agree with the dry hop. I think it could have the port could have been done differently, but at the time we did what we thought was the best. In any case, that's a good way to fix it. So release a different lead, and people have the option to upgrade if they want to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's going to be, it's a good lid. It's very good lid.
And I think there's probably a little bit of over worrying about oxidation by opening the lid to dry hop. I mean, you're probably the same. Like I've done that many brews. I've just popped the lid off, chucked the hops in, put the lid back on. Chuck a bit of CO2 in it, purge it a couple of times, and I've never had any issues with oxidizing. As a result of that. But certainly the whole putting a sight glass or something similar on top of it, and purging that and putting your hops through that way, it's really popular. So I think there's definitely a place in the market to have that as an option on your fermenters.
Yeah, no, you're right. And personally, so I have never done NEPAs because it's not really the style I drink. So I guess they're likely to be oxidized. So I guess when you do it, you might want to do oxygen-free dry hopping, and I understand that. But also, I think there's a lot of romance with the idea of just dumping the yeast. You open the valve and off it goes, right? And that's something you want to be able to provide to different customers. But I don't. It's not even there yet. So I'm sure you'll get a copy when it arrives. You'll get your own piece and you'll be able to review it and whatnot. But
sweet.
Going back to the Apollos, how do you find, very interesting because you have both the plastic and the stainless, how do you find cleaning them? Obviously the stainless, you can go full hot water and not worry about anything. So you can even pour boiling water, that's fine. How do you find cleaning the plastic version of it?
Yeah, so it's really good as well. Obviously, because it's the plastic, you can't use like the super hot water. So even just some sort of tepid or warmish sort of water certainly helps to break down some of the gunk and stuff that's left over after a fermentation. But what's really good, the hole is big enough. I can fit my arm in there to scrub down the bottom of it and that sort of thing. And just with a chucks cloth or a soft sponge or something, a little bit of warm water and some PBW has always been enough for me to get it all nice and cleaned up. But another thing that I've got from you guys that I use a lot is the keg cleaning kit. which, you know, submersible pump and bucket, and you've got a nice little stand that you can sit your kegs on. And if anyone's got one of those, you can also use it to clean your fermenter as well. You know, particularly the both of the Apollos sit really nicely upside down over that. The opening is obviously a little bit bigger than, you know, a corny keg, so it'll sits on that stand nicely, and you know, with some warm water and PBW, it just shoots straight up, and, you know, hands-free cleaning. Leave it for 10 minutes, and then, you know, rinse it with some water. And man, us brewers all have one thing in common, and that's to make things easier. We are inherently lazy people, so you know, equipment like that just makes cleaning and stuff like easier is always going to be well received by brewers for sure.
It's crazy because those pumps, they're the 25-watt pumps. I think they're the green submersible pumps. They're really good. They are just so good. And
man, it cranks.
I think I've got it. 5 or 6 meters high, I think.
Yeah, I've got a video on the website when I was testing and reviewing. I think I did a video of it, like just turned it on without anything sitting on top, so you can see the, you know, the stream of water shooting straight up, and yeah, it gets a fair bit of height. Like it pumps out a little bit of pressure. So yeah, to clean a little bit of gunk off the inside of fermenter, it works really well.
So that's basically the feedback from the Apollos. Do you also own different fermenters? Without really going too much into details, do you own different ones?
Yeah, I do have a couple of others, and, you know, the one of them I have doesn't have the cone at the bottom. It's one of the other sort of plastic PET ones, and I must admit I haven't actually used that one since getting the snub nose, just because, you know, the snub nose, as I mentioned before, the trouble just kind of settles much more nicely into the cone. So I've just found that you know, a little bit better to use, and you can just get more beer out of it. The other one that I've got is the Nano X from Cheeky Peak. That's just like the little 30-liter one. That one has the wide opening around the lid, and it's got a few more like 1.5-inch tri-clamp ports and a couple more ports on the lid. But I know I've got, I think, maybe the first generation one, and so the gasket kind of comes out sometimes on the lid. And you know, I think I've got the hang of it now, but just saying that, right? So I have had issues with it before. So when I'm looking at which one to use, I'm often going, oh, I'll just use the Titan because it's got that smaller lid and it's never let me down. So, you know, that's the one that typically gets a run for most fermentations. Yeah.
Well, that's really good feedback. Appreciate that. Any issues you've had as you were using the different units? Have you had any? I think you're like, oh, damn. Besides the dry hop pot, I guess we've covered that, but yeah, anything that happened, you're like, oh, it's annoying.
Yeah, I think the only problem I had was, I think it was with the plastic Apollo. I think I had over tightened the dry hop port where the PRV is also located, and I think I'd over tightened it a little bit, so I was getting some leakage out of there. So I basically sort of backed it right off and tried it again a couple of times and managed to get it. And it's one of those things where once you get it right, I just don't touch it now. You know, I just take the lid off to clean it. I don't need to unscrew the PRV or anything. So, and a little bit of keg lube on the seal of the PRV, I think, also helped with that as well.
But what you're mentioning happened to me a few times, and specifically why we designed that SS lid to go with it, where it's got an SS dry PRV port and everything, where you won't have that issue of the plastic giving way a bit or something. So well, that's really good to hear. Appreciate the feedback. I think if people follow this series, they will hear probably the same thing over a different reviewer, is that once you have your hands on that unit, you just feel there's some quality to it. So of course there's a price tag that's more expensive than a bucket or whatever it is, but then I would think over a couple of years you'll get really good use of it.
Absolutely.
What other products do you have? Did we give you?
So we've talked about the fermenters and the keg cleaner. The other one that I've got, and I've actually got right here, is this little guy here. It's called the Quickie. It's a little Cornelius post. I guess it's what would you call it? A Cornelius post, like poppet depressor, I suppose. You know, and the idea is here, you know, with your pressure fermenter, or I suppose with the keg, you could do it as well. You literally just sit it on the liquid outpost and you push it down, and you know the liquid will just shoot out here. And what I use that for is taking samples, you know, from a pressure fermenter, because it just means I don't have to mess around with picnic taps and Pluto guns and lines of you know, tubing and that sort of thing, which, you know, not the end of the world, but you know, it just means I don't have to clean them up. afterwards,
Exactly.
right? You
Less
don't
prep
want
is
to leave
better.
half fermented beer sitting in your Pluto gun line or your little picnic tap line. And so this thing, you literally just shoot it off into a glass, and then you just take it off. I'll just run it under the tap, leave it to dry, and
it's full
and away we
stainless.
go.
Yeah, it's full stainless. So it'll take a
Yep.
boiling water.
Yep.
I want to mention that I'm very lazy. Sometimes I don't even keg my beers. This is straight from the fermenter. This was poured with a Quickie Tap because I'm lazy. I'm that lazy sometimes, right? So this Quickie Tap is just a tap as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And so, I mean, the only problem with this is obviously if you've got something under a lot of pressure, you will get a bit of foam coming out and that sort of thing, and that's inevitable. You could put like a little bit of line on the little sort of knob here, to help reduce that. But if you're taking a sample, you want it degassed anyway, before you take a hydrometer reading and that sort of thing. And for, as the name suggests, for like a really quick way to get a little bit of your beer or wort out. I don't even put it away anymore. It just sits out. Because I'm using it that often. So
it's crazy. It's a small item, but it's one of those things that everyone should really have around the breweries, because once you do pressure fermenting, it's just so much useful.
So easy. Yep.
And so easy to
it's
clean.
100%. And it's such a simple and ultimately a basic sort of idea and design. But man, it's like they're often the best ones. Like so that's definitely a worthwhile investment. And tack it onto your next Keg King order, because it's one of those must-haves for me. I actually misplaced it when I was moving house, and I was surprisingly annoyed when I lost it, but then I was pretty damn happy when I found it again too. So
that happened to a lot of people. I'm pretty sure I thought I lost mine and found it, and I was like, yes.
It's the best feeling when you find it again, for sure.
It's just there because when you need it and it's there and it's the right tool for the job, then you're like, okay, well, it's only $15. Who cares, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other one that I've got, I've actually got sitting here, and that's your I think it's called the Ultrafill, the counter pressure bottle filler. Yep. And so this one's excellent as well. I mean, it's basically fully stainless steel. It's got the ball valve attachment here, so when you're filling, you can easily shut off the beer flow and that sort of thing, and you can pre-purge. There's a little gas on and off button here, and besides that, the ball valve thing here, it's nearly like a one-handed operation, and that's what I always use. Admittedly, I don't fill bottles as much as I used to, because like a lot of people, just sort of gone straight down the kegging path now and got sick of washing dozens of bottles for every brew. But to quickly fill a couple of bottles to give to some mates, or to enter off to a competition, if you're familiar with brewing and bottling, you'll know that oxygen-free counter pressure bottle filling, it's absolutely the way to go. And if you haven't looked into it, definitely do so, because it's not as hard as you probably think it is, especially if you've got the right gear to do it. So that's
and you can do it straight from the keg. So actually, what I think some people might be interested in doing is you can actually move your beer from the fermenter into the keg, even if you don't ferment under pressure, right? Put it into the keg, pressurize it in the keg, and then you can actually fill your bottles, the entire keg straight from the keg. But back in the day, the plastic whatever thingy where you would put the bottle in and
the siphon, auto siphons and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So I think this gets rid of all of that. Even if you still want to bottle and not want to keg and have the keg in the fridge and the kegerator, if you don't want that, you can still bottle, but in much easier way, right?
Absolutely. And even to go a step beyond that, what I do is I actually run the beer line or the ball disconnect off the tap. So I don't even disconnect the taps from the keg. I just hook the bottle filler directly to the tap output, and that way, I don't even have to open the fridge, and there's bottling straight out of the tap, and away you go. It's got the integrated connection for the CO2 gas, or ball lock connections. My only complaint, the only thing I like to see with this is a push-in fitting on the top. It's just a typical sort of barb and that sort of thing. I think that'd just be a little bit easier just to disconnect the lines to clean it. Exactly right.
Fair point. Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, the rest of it comes apart really easily for cleaning. Like, you can unscrew the pressure relief valve thing, and then you can just sort of, once again, being stainless, you could boil it if you wanted to, spray it with Star San or whatever you use to sanitize, and it'll take any sort of punishment you throw at it. So that's a really good bit of kit.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to hear. Again, thanks for that. I use mine a lot for competition specifically as well, or when I share brews with with friends. I just bring a couple of bottles, but at least I know that the bottle will last for at least a couple of weeks and not have too many issues. So yeah, it's really good feedback. Before we close up, what sort of what's happening next for Birallee Brewing? What are you going to be reviewing? Again, I'll share the link to the blog. We'll share the link in the video and everywhere else because Pete does an amazing job. Love the review. So what's next for you?
Yeah, so I was mentioning before that recently finished building our new house where we are now. So I'm fortunate to have the garage brewery and that sort of thing. So I've been brewing more now and recently than I ever have before, which has been really, really great. So a lot of brew days, a lot of recipes, and then breakdowns and analysis of those beers. Which is that's exciting, and so that's really the focus at the moment. And then whatever other equipment is coming out and I can get my hands on, I'll be doing an in-depth review of that sort of stuff and just keeping up to date with all the trends and that sort of thing. But one of the almost unwritten rules, I suppose, for what I'm doing is trying not to make the same beers or use the same recipe twice, to try and keep things a little bit more mixed and interesting. So I'm thinking there's going to be a West Coast IPA and or a cold IPA coming up.
Yep.
Next, which are ones that I've been wanting to try my hand at for quite a while.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's interesting you do that. So do you find that even though you do different recipes, do you go back to specific grains or hops or yeast strains that you're always happy with? Because I was doing that for a while, and then I realized, well, I really like these hops, so I'm going to keep using that. I think Amarillo has to be one of my favorite New World hops, and then otherwise it's Magnum, Tettnang, Mittelfrüh. So I was always going back to the same hops. Do you find the same?
Yep. No, I tend to I like to mix it up. So I like to try different varieties of grain and of hops and and yeast as well. Yeast is probably one of the biggest factors, in terms of your flavor profile and that sort of thing. So yeah, I definitely try to mix it up and try to not keep using the same hop varieties and that sort of thing. I think I also get a little bit bored if I'm sort of having those same sort of flavor profiles and that sort of thing. It's another reason to keep mixing it up with different styles.
Yeah. I guess, it's really, that's what homebrewing is about. Hey, you just
absolutely,
do exactly what you want, right? So if you want the same stuff, you do the same stuff. If you want to try something else, you do whatever you want.
That's right. You're brewing for yourself, and that's the best part. You haven't got shareholders to worry about or customers to worry about pleasing. You can just make whatever you like. So it's best hobby.
I can't imagine what it's like to be in a brewery as a brewer. I mean, I have talked to some brewers and professional brewers, but I can only imagine, when you bring the same recipe over and over, and and the goal to have that consistency is obviously exciting, but then sometimes I'm sure they would be dying to change the recipe.
At the end of the day, man, they're creative types, and so I think that there'd always be that itch to be trying new and different things, and you're a little bit restrained, I suppose, by what the public wants and what's going to sell and make the money and pay the bills. Yeah,
that's right. So thanks again for joining me tonight, Pete. It's always good to have a chat. We've done that a couple of times now. When I was in Sydney, it was awesome. So you're always welcome. If you're in Melbourne, you'll be welcome. We'll show you around the factories because obviously they're right next to the office where we produce the Apollo, so you can see them being produced and all these sort of things. Actually, the background is one of the machines. So it's all made here. It's really, really good. But again, thanks for joining us tonight. The blog is really, really good. It's not tiring read. So sometimes people might think, articles and stuff, it's brain intensive, but it's not. It's really well written. It's quality stuff. I really encourage everyone to go have a read. And then I don't know if you can subscribe to the blog and get updates.
There is, on the main page on the right hand side, there is a way you can subscribe and get email digests and that sort of thing of new posts and that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And do you know what we should do this year? We should actually work on a brew together and then brew it separately, and then I'll send you bottles and we see how we go. That could be interesting, eh?
That sounds awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, we should do something crazy where you pick the grains and I pick the hops and We should do something super random.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds
Anyway,
cool. Yeah,
anyway,
we'll
with
sort
that,
it
guys,
out.
thanks for joining me. I really appreciate that. Pete,
Excellent.
always a pleasure. And yeah, to everyone, go check him out.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Nico. All the best, mate.
Have a good one.